terribly busy. Busy, they were lined up in the hallway out in front. If you don't vote, you can't complain.
Oh my God, I'm so tired of those commercials. I'm so ready for it to be over.
A soggy day at the polls, but it didn't dampen the opinions of voters. Plus, from election taxi rides to street corners, we're covering it all. Your news starts right now.
Now, Arkansas's News and Information Center. This is THV 11 News at 6.
Okay. The polls are going to close in an hour and a half, then results will start rolling in, and we'll be with you all night following the races and issues you care about most. Thank you for watching. I'm Craig O'Neill.
And I'm Dawn Scott, and right now we have live crews at watch parties for Senate candidates incumbent Mark Pryor and Congressman Tom Cotton. That race getting national attention tonight.
And we also already have crews where the candidates for governor, Asa Hutchinson and Mike Ross, will be waiting for their results. In just 30 minutes, we'll have our panel of experts here. A very familiar face, Lance Turner with Arkansas Business, plus Jordan Johnson, who has joined us to talk politics before. He's a communications consultant who has worked with several Democratic candidates, and Catherine Basilis, a former Republican Party spokesperson and current public affairs associate. They'll help us understand what the bigger implications of these results are as they roll in.
Many voters, though, gotten a little wet on their way to the polls today. Our chief meteorologist, Ed Buckner, with more on this forecast. About an hour and a half left to vote out there. Ed?
Yeah, and it's going to be raining the whole time. So we're not expecting this rain to let up. So if you are waiting for that to happen, don't wait. Go on out and vote. Head to the polls, because it's not going to stop raining, at least in central and northern Arkansas, for the next probably 12 to maybe 16 hours. Yeah, I know it's going to be raining for a while. Here's a look at the radar right now. Live View Max shows the rain across central and northern Arkansas. Light rain, but still more of a nuisance rain. It is slowly, and I mean very, very slowly, pushing toward the east and southeast. Pine Bluff just now beginning to see some very, very light sprinkles. So the rain's just now moving into that part of the state. But in central Arkansas, it's not going to stop anytime soon. So overnight, we'll see the rain chances at about 90%, 80% at 6, and by noon tomorrow, dwindling to 50%. But by tomorrow afternoon, finally, the rain should come to an end with some clearing and a high of only 57. So a rather soggy soggy night, several hours of rain. We'll talk more about how we'll see some better weather and cooler weather coming up in just a few.
All right, thanks, Ed. After nearly 2 years of traveling the state, attending rallies and fundraisers, Election Day is finally here for the candidates.
And we have reporters at watch parties all over the city, but we start with THV 11's Kevin Traeger, who is covering Senator Mark Pryor from the DoubleTree Hotel. Kevin.
Craig, Dawn, less than 90 minutes till the polls close here in Arkansas, and a real sense of excitement surrounding the Pryor campaign right now. Now, he may be trailing slightly in the polls, but he wants to remind everyone those are just polls. They're not 100% accurate, and that's the message that he's bringing into his results party event here tonight at the DoubleTree Hotel. And we caught up with the senator earlier today at an event with his family having lunch at Simms Barbecue here in Little Rock. I asked the senator if he has any regrets throughout this entire campaign. Here's what he had to say.
I wish that the campaign hadn't started as early as it did. I wish it wasn't as negative as it did, but you have to remember the other side started that. It actually wasn't Congressman Cotton's campaign, but it was actually the super PACs. They started running negative attack ads 20 months ago.
Now, it's been reported that an unprecedented $56 million has been spent between the Pryor and Cotton campaigns on this election, obviously most of that on advertisements. Now, coming up at 6:30, we're going to talk more about the national political implications surrounding this race. Reporting live in Little Rock, Kevin Traeger, THV 11 News.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you throughout the night. Across the bridge, that is where we find Mr. Pryor's opponent, Tom Cotton. Last August, Cotton announced he would challenge incumbent Mark Pryor.
THV 11's Marlisa Goldsmith is at his results party at the Wyndham in North Little Rock. Marlisa, any last-minute push from Cotton today that you could tell?
That's exactly what they've been doing, Dawn and Craig, all throughout the day. Cotton made sure each and every moment before these polls closed tonight count. He got things started underway this morning when he made several appearances on various television stations, radio stations, conducting interviews, sending his final message to voters before they visited their polling sites today. Now, he also greeted voters at the St. James United Methodist Church in West Little Rock. That's where I caught up with him this morning, shaking hands and explaining the importance of this U.S. Senate race.
Trying to win every last vote. It's been 15 months. It's been a lot of fun. This election is very important, so we don't want to leave any stone unturned.
Now, results will start rolling in about an hour and a half here, and the watch party will begin at 7 tonight. We'll be here throughout the night. When I spoke with Cotton earlier, he told me that he is expecting good results from this race, and he plans on starting work tomorrow. For now, reporting live in North Little Rock. Back to you guys back in the studio.
All right, Marlisa, many national outlets also keeping an eye on governor's races. It's another close call here in Arkansas between Republican Asa Hutchinson and Democrat Mike Ross.
THV 11's Alyssa Raymond spent the day with Mike Ross, and she joins us from the Marriott downtown where his watch party is.
We did 7 cities today.
Greg and Don, this is it. We're at the Marriott now for his watch party, and you can see it's all set up behind me, but it doesn't officially get underway until around 7:30. So Mike Ross has been all over the state today, and he started out in Conway. Then we caught up with him in Sheridan and also in Malvern, and that's where the rain started, but he was out there in the rain, no umbrella, rain falling on his head like a champ, and just to get that last vote out and get those people to the polls. And he said that while he's up in some polls, he's down in others, but he's still very optimistic about tonight.
I think it's going to be very, very close, and we're confident we're going to win tonight, and it's because we believe the people of Arkansas, they want a common sense leader that's going to work with Democrats and Republicans and get the job done.
And he said he's getting through this with lots of coffee. He had 7 stops today, the last one in Little Rock, and now he's at the Marriott for his watch party. All his guests expected to arrive sometime before 7:30. So we'll be out here throughout the night and have updates for you throughout the evening as well. Reporting live in Little Rock, Alyssa Raymond, back to you in the studio.
All right, Alyssa. Now, on the other side of the gubernatorial race is Republican Asa Hutchinson, former director of the DEA, as well as under supervisor at the Department of Homeland Security, who has had his fair share of public office, but has yet to win a statewide election.
He's trying to do that now, and THV 11's Dan Grossman is live at Little Rock's Embassy Suites. And what is Hutchinson's camp saying so far?
Craig and Dawn, we got to speak with him all day, and when he was talking about him earlier, we wanted to talk to him about how he felt about the whole campaign altogether. And he said he feels very good about it, particularly about the support in Northwest Arkansas. You know, he does have a lot of ties back there. He is from Bentonville. He also has a law firm up in the Rogers area, and also historically Northwest Arkansas has been a stronghold for the Republican Party. We talked about his support and also what he thought the key demographic was going into this race.
I've called myself wanting to be the jobs governor. It sends a message that economic development is so critical to our state, and if we can get our 18-year-olds and new college students to vote, then that's the great opportunity, and that's the demographic that I hope we can attract to the polls.
And you heard right there he was talking about young voters. A lot of candidates do talk about how the young vote is an important one, but Hutchinson particularly so. He says in a lot of his economic plans, you did hear him say he wants to be the job governor, and a lot of his economic plans for Arkansas, he talks about high school students. That's because he says computer technology courses are vital, and starting that at a high school age is very important. He is set to arrive here at 7:30, and we will be bringing you the very latest updates. But for now, reporting live in Little Rock, Dan Grossman, THV 11 News.
All right, thank you, Dan. The other closely watched items on this ballot, the issues.
One of the hottest items, issue 4, and that is involving statewide alcohol sales. For the first time in state history, Arkansans will be deciding whether or not to allow the sale of alcohol in all counties. Right now, there are 37 dry counties and 38 wet or mixed counties.
The attorney for Let Arkansas Decide, the group pushing the issue, said it was much easier to propose the amendment on a state level than to try and make change county by county.
The law is so hard and so difficult for them to get that on the ballot locally that it really is no option to do that. So that's the reason we had to do the statewide, was, you know, to give people that didn't have a voice a voice.
If passed, the amendment will allow counties to each decide on restrictions on the locations that sell alcohol, as well as time constraints. Our Phil Buck spent the afternoon talking to voters as they exited the polls, and that's where we find Phil right now.
What were some of the things voters say drove their interest in this election, Phil?
Well, indeed, I got to talk to voters all over the board today in terms of their actual political views. But when we took a step back and talked about what individual races or individual issues were of particular interest to voters, I got a lot of the same answers from people in both parties.
The Senate race, Yeah, for sure.
Probably the Senate race.
I'm pretty excited about the minimum wage thing. I'm curious to see what happens with the big races, obviously.
I think the most important thing on the ballot, regardless of whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, is something that everybody can agree on, is getting the money out of politics. I was super happy that we had that to vote on today.
Well, I'm definitely watching the governor's race, and I'm watching the increase in wage.
I'm glad to see the minimum wage increase on the ballot, and I'd be interested to see what happens with the alcohol amendment.
Mainly just that Tom Cotton doesn't get elected, mainly. That's what's it for me.
You're just voting against Cotton?
Yes.
What about the issues on the ballot?
I'm for the alcohol one because, I mean, it would create jobs.
All of them were important to me. I guess the most important one was the minimum wage and our next governor.
The gubernatorial race, and that one was kind of difficult because I liked a lot of the two main candidates. So, but other than that, minimum wage, working minimum wage for a while, I know how awful it is, and so that was another big one for me.
Now, according to the Secretary of State's office, the number of people voting early in this midterm election is markedly higher than what we saw in the last midterm. In fact, they've seen almost 100,000 people more vote early than they did in 2010. And that may be having an effect on some of the lines at the polls because, as you can see, there's a relatively short wait here, and that's what I heard from most people that were voting today, aside from a few long lines this morning when the polls first opened. The voting has gone relatively quickly and smooth at most polling places. Now, the polls still open for just about an hour and 20 minutes, so you do still have time to get out and cast your ballot if you haven't already done so. Craig and Don.
All right, thank you, Phil. Now, we've told you about Senate and governors, but there's still several more races to mention.
THV 11 crews tagged along with candidates for Congressional District 2 as well. We'll profile that race next.